Janelle Carter Morris is 8 months pregnant and being treated like a servant at her own baby shower. Janelle Carter Morris stood in the kitchen, cutting vegetables. She was 8 months pregnant, tired, and sweating in a floral apron and flat shoes. The baby shower was happening in the next room. People laughed, music played, champagne flowed, and the house was filled with flowers and fancy food. But Janelle wasn't there to enjoy it. Her mother-in-law, Loretta Morris, stood behind her, watching closely like a judge. Loretta had sharp eyes and a voice that could cut glass. "This is how we make wives in this family," Loretta said coldly. "Not just pretty pictures on Instagram." Janelle didn't answer. She just kept chopping. In the living room, guests whispered and smirked. She's learning humility. Finally, she needed this. That attitude of hers. Janelle wiped sweat from her forehead. Her hands shook. Her back ached. Her belly felt heavy, like she could tip over any second. She glanced into the other room. Her husband, Derek, stood laughing with his friends. He looked like he didn't have a care in the world. He didn't once look her way. Loretta leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. "You may be carrying a Morris," she said, "but you'll never be one." Janelle blinked, stunned, but she didn't say anything. Not yet. She turned back to the cutting board and kept slicing vegetables. The sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and soft music floated through the air. But in Janelle's world, it was all quiet now. She was standing in the middle of her own baby shower, completely alone. Janelle grew up in Atlanta. Her mother raised her alone, working long hours, sometimes 2 jobs just to pay the bills. They didn't have much, but Janelle always knew how to work hard. She studied hard in school and became the top student in her nursing class. She was smart, focused, and proud of how far she had come. Then she met Derek at a hospital fundraiser. He was kind, charming, and confident. He came from a wealthy family and seemed to really care about her. At first, everything felt like a dream. Derek's family had money and status. His parents were respected, doctors, lawyers, and business people. Their home was big and full of fancy things. When Janelle met Derek's mother, Loretta Morris, the woman smiled and said the right words. But something about her always felt cold underneath. After a few visits, Loretta started giving helpful advice. She made little comments about how Janelle dressed, how she spoke, and how she didn't come from a proper background. She often brought up Derek's ex-girlfriend, the one who came from an important family and had a law degree. Still, Janelle tried to ignore the warnings. She was in love, and Derek had asked her to marry him. After the wedding, things changed. Janelle quit her nursing job, thinking she'd return later. She and Derek moved into a guest house behind his parents' big home. Loretta said it would be easier to help once the baby came. Janelle missed her old life, her friends, her work, her freedom. Now she was alone most days, pregnant, and depending on people who made her feel like she didn't belong. Derek said it was only for a little while, just until the baby is born, he promised. So Janelle stayed. She told herself to be patient, to be strong, but inside, something didn't feel right. She had worked so hard to become independent. Now she was stuck in someone else's world, slowly losing herself. After the baby shower, while most guests had left or were saying their goodbyes, Janelle stayed behind to clean up. Her back hurt, and her feet were swollen, but she needed a moment to herself. As she walked past the sitting room, she heard voices. Loretta's voice, loud and sharp, followed by a soft laugh. Janelle paused behind the wall and listened. Loretta was talking to one of the aunts. "We had to knock that pride out of her before the baby gets here," she said, laughing. The words hit Janelle like a slap. Her hands clenched at her sides. It wasn't just a joke. It was something Loretta truly believed. She didn't see Janelle as part of the family. She saw her as a problem to fix. Janelle walked straight to the bedroom where Derek was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. Her voice was calm, but tight. "Did you hear what your mom just said about me?" Derek didn't look up. "What now?" he asked. Annoyed, Janelle repeated the comment. "She said you all had to knock the pride out of me before the baby comes." Derek shrugged. "She's just being real with you." Janelle stared at him, waiting for more, waiting for him to stand up for her. But instead he added, "Don't be so sensitive." She turned around and walked away. No more arguing. She was too tired to fight someone who clearly didn't care. A week later, while doing laundry, Janelle found Derek's gym bag on the floor. She opened it, expecting to find dirty clothes or a protein bar wrapper. But instead, there was a folded piece of paper tucked in the side pocket. She opened it slowly. It was a sonogram, but not hers. The name printed on the corner read, Keisha Miller. Janelle froze. Her heart began to race. Her hands started shaking. She sat down on the bed, staring at the image. Who was Keisha? She grabbed her phone and searched the name online. Almost right away, she found a baby registry, public, full of cute baby items. Due date, the same week as Janelle's. Her chest tightened. She kept scrolling and found pictures of a baby gender reveal party. In one of the photos, standing in the background with a drink in his hand, was Derek, her husband, smiling like he belonged there. That evening, Janelle waited until Derek came home. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply held up the sonogram and asked, "What is this?" He paused, looking at the photo, and then said, "It's nothing." Janelle's voice shook. "Don't lie to me. Who is Keisha Miller?" Derek sighed and sat down. "It was one time," he said. "It's not serious." She looked at him, stunned. "She's having your baby. That's serious." Derek didn't flinch. "She knows I'm with you. She's not trying to come between us." Janelle felt like the ground beneath her feet had broken open. Her whole world shifted in that moment. She had given up her job, her friends, her independence, everything for this man. And now he had betrayed her and acted like it was no big deal. But she didn't scream. She didn't fall apart. Not yet. She stayed quiet, her face calm, even as her heart broke, because now she knew the truth, and she would never be the same again. When Janelle confronted Derek about Keisha's pregnancy, he didn't show guilt or worry. Instead, he leaned back and said, "You're emotional, pregnant, let's not fight." His voice was calm, almost bored. He acted like she was the problem. Janelle stared at him, stunned. He wasn't even trying to deny it anymore. He just wanted to move on like nothing happened. It was like talking to a stranger. Later that night, Janelle couldn't sleep. Her mind kept spinning. She picked up her phone and searched for Keisha's social media again. She clicked through pictures, looking closely. In one of the videos from a baby gender reveal party, she paused the screen. There he was, Derek, standing off to the side, holding a balloon and laughing. He didn't look like a man who made a one-time mistake. He looked like he belonged there. That night, while Derek was asleep, Janelle wrote down everything she knew. She made a list, dates, names, photos, texts. She knew she needed help. The next day, she quietly called a lawyer. She didn't tell anyone, not even her closest friends. She also opened a new bank account under her name. She planned to move money a little at a time, so no one would notice. Loretta, meanwhile, acted like everything was fine. She came over every morning with advice Janelle didn't ask for: what to eat, how to dress, how to raise the baby. Then she reminded Janelle about Sunday brunch at the Morris house. "You have to keep up appearances," she said. "People talk." So Janelle went. She dressed up, smiled at the table, and nodded politely while people made small talk. But inside, she was watching, listening, collecting. She played the role of the perfect wife. But behind her calm face, she was working on her escape. At night, Janelle saved screenshots, text messages, photos. She made copies of hospital bills and receipts. Every detail mattered. One day, she went into the shared office and noticed Derek had left his iPad open. She glanced at the screen, and what she saw made her stop cold. It was a message from Loretta to Keisha. Just one line: "This baby will restore the Morris line." Janelle felt her stomach twist. It wasn't just Derek who had betrayed her. Loretta had known, maybe even planned it. Janelle thought back to all the times Loretta had made her feel small, all the little comments about good blood and strong roots. Now it made sense. Loretta didn't want her baby. She wanted Keisha's. In Loretta's eyes, Keisha and her baby were the real future of the family. Janelle sat down in the dark, holding the iPad in her lap. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the screen, finally understanding everything. And in that quiet moment, she made a promise to herself. They would not break her. She would not let them win. It was a sunny afternoon at the Morris family estate. The garden was filled with well-dressed guests, soft music, and the sound of glasses clinking. Everyone had gathered for a grand family luncheon, an important event where appearances mattered. Janelle arrived quietly, wearing a simple blue dress. Her face was calm, but her heart was racing. She was 8 months pregnant, tired, but focused. She walked through the crowd without saying a word, unnoticed by most. Then she saw her, Keisha, sitting comfortably at a table near the front, smiling and talking with Derek's relatives like she belonged there. Soon, Loretta stood and tapped her glass to speak. "Thank you all for coming," she said warmly. "I'd like to recognize a very special friend of the family, Miss Keisha Miller, a woman of good blood, strong values, and grace." Janelle felt something tighten in her chest, but she didn't flinch. She stood up slowly and raised her hand. "I'd like to say a few words," Janelle said, her voice steady and clear. A few heads turned. Someone handed her the microphone. She looked around at the people gathered, many of whom had judged her, ignored her, or spoken behind her back. She looked at Derek, who now seemed nervous, and at Loretta, whose smile had disappeared. "Funny thing about blood," Janelle said into the mic. "It stains." The crowd fell silent. Janelle reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. She held it up. "This folder holds proof," she said. "Proof of Derek's affair. A DNA test confirming the baby isn't mine. Screenshots of messages between Loretta and Keisha. And a video of Loretta calling me unworthy, telling me I'd never be a real Morris." Gasps rose from the guests. A few people shifted in their seats. Some looked at Derek in shock, others at Loretta in disbelief. Janelle continued, her voice never shaking. "I was quiet. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I followed the rules, played the part, and stayed small to keep the peace. But I'm not doing that anymore." Derek stepped forward. "Let's not do this here," he said softly. "Let's talk later." Loretta, sitting nearby, suddenly slapped his hand away. "Don't," she whispered. Her face had turned pale. Her hands shook slightly as she tried to stand, but ended up sinking back into her chair. Her breathing was shallow. Someone rushed to help, but she waved them off. Janelle didn't look back. She handed the mic to a server and picked up her purse. The crowd was frozen. All the whispers, the smirks, the gossip, it all stopped. She walked away slowly, her belly full, her back straight, her silence broken. The truth was finally out. Janelle moved into a small apartment in downtown Atlanta. It wasn't big, and it didn't have fancy furniture, but it was clean and quiet. For the first time in months, she felt safe. No one was telling her what to do. No one was watching her every move. She could finally breathe. The apartment had one bedroom, white walls, and a small window where the sunlight came in every morning. She bought secondhand furniture from a local thrift store, a soft couch, a table, a bed for her, and a crib for the baby. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. It felt like a new beginning. Even though she was pregnant and tired, Janelle went back to school. She re-enrolled in her nursing program and started working toward finishing her degree. She studied every night, sitting at the small table with her belly resting against it. Sometimes the baby kicked as she flipped through her textbooks. It wasn't easy. Some days she felt like giving up. But every time she remembered Loretta's voice saying she'd never be enough, it lit a fire inside her. She was determined to prove everyone wrong, not just for herself, but for her child. She reached out to Naya, her old friend from college. They hadn't talked much since Janelle got married, but when she called, Naya answered right away. "Girl, where have you been?" Naya said, laughing. When Janelle told her everything, what happened with Derek, with Loretta, with the baby, Nia didn't judge. She just listened. "You should have called me sooner," she said gently. "But you're here now. You're not alone." They started meeting once a week for coffee or dinner. Sometimes they just sat together and talked about nothing. Nia reminded Janelle of who she used to be. Strong, smart, independent. It helped her feel like herself again. Derek started sending emails a few weeks after the family luncheon. The first one said, "Hope you're okay." The next one said, "Can we talk?" After that came longer messages, apologies, excuses, promises. He said he missed her. He said he wanted to be part of the baby's life. Janelle read every message, quietly, alone. Then she deleted them. She never replied. She had given him enough chances already. Now, she was done. Then, one day, there was a knock at her apartment door. Janelle wasn't expecting anyone. She looked through the curtain and froze. It was Loretta, standing outside, holding a small gift bag. She looked different, tired, older, not as proud. She didn't knock again. She just stood there, staring at the door like she hoped it would open. Janelle watched silently. She didn't move. She didn't open it. After a few minutes, Loretta turned and walked away. Janelle stepped back, closed the curtain, and sat down on the couch, her hand resting on her belly. She felt a small kick and smiled to herself. She didn't need anything from Loretta. Not an apology, not forgiveness, not acceptance. She had already made peace with the past. Janelle was finally free. She didn't have a big house or fancy clothes. She didn't have a husband or in-laws pretending to support her. But what she had now was more important: peace, self-respect, and a future she was building on her own. Her baby would grow up in a home full of love, not lies. And for Janelle, that was enough. It was early morning when Janelle felt the first strong contraction. She had been feeling small cramps all night, but now the pain was clear. Her baby was ready to come. She didn't panic. She moved slowly, calmly. She picked up the hospital bag she had packed weeks ago, put on her coat, and called for a taxi. There was no one to drive her, no one waiting beside her, but she wasn't scared. She had been through worse, and now she was stronger than ever. When she arrived at the hospital, the nurses were kind. They helped her settle into a room, hooked her up to monitors, and told her she was already in active labor. Hours passed. The pain was deep and heavy, but she focused on her breathing. She cried at times, gripped the side of the bed, but she didn't give up. She kept thinking about the little life she was bringing into the world, a life that deserved peace, love, and truth. Finally, with one last push, she heard the sound of her baby crying, a loud, healthy, beautiful sound. The doctor smiled and said, "It's a girl." Janelle began to cry too, this time from joy. The nurse placed the baby on her chest. Janelle looked at her daughter's soft skin, tiny nose, and delicate fingers. Her heart swelled. In that moment, all the pain and heartbreak faded. This little girl was her whole world now. Later, when a nurse brought in the paperwork, she asked Janelle if she wanted to list the father on the birth certificate. Janelle thought for a moment. She remembered Derek's betrayal, Loretta's cruelty, and everything she had survived. Then she looked down at her baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. She gently shook her head and said, "No, leave it blank." The nurse nodded with quiet respect. Another nurse came in and asked, "Would you like to call someone? The baby's father? A family member?" Janelle smiled softly, tired but proud. She held her daughter closer and said, "No, we're enough." That night, after everything settled down, the room was quiet. Janelle sat in a rocking chair near the window, her daughter wrapped in a soft pink blanket. The city lights glowed in the distance. She began to hum a lullaby, one her mother used to sing to her long ago. Her voice was low and soothing, and her baby blinked up at her with sleepy eyes. Janelle rocked back and forth, holding her daughter close to her chest. She didn't need anyone's approval anymore. She didn't need to prove anything to the Morris family. She had everything she needed right there in her arms. A second chance, a fresh start, and a love that couldn't be broken. As her baby finally drifted off to sleep, Janelle whispered, "It's just us now, baby girl, and we're going to be just fine." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't miss the next videos on the end screen. Click to watch and stay connected. See you in the next one.